Have you been hearing about breakout rooms and wondering to yourself, what are they and why would they be important to me as an online EFL teacher? I've invited a special guest today to answer your questions about breakout rooms. It's Uma Kadima from Emden, Germany. She's the owner of English in Emden, which specializes in English communication training and preparation for international exams. She's got a CELTA, a bachelor's degree in economics, and a master's in education and applied linguistics. So she's got experience in business and EFL. She's originally from India, but has lived and worked in Australia, China, and now Germany. This is Ellen Baker Dubois from businessenglishalure.com. Let's meet Uma.
Yes.
So it's really nice to have you, Uma. Uh, you're very kind to come and explain breakout rooms to me and to others. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Uh, could would you mind to explain a little bit about what is a breakout room?
Well, a breakout room is essentially a room where you can send students, or depending on the version, students can move into this room themselves. It's just a smaller, more contained digital space for them to work with certain members of the group together. That's it. It's basically like your group work in a classroom, but in a digital form.
Okay, so I suppose that's how we have to think about it, as a separate classroom, and they go and come back to the big main classroom.
Yes. In the class, you would have maybe tables or corners and send students off. And here you have them digitally. Well, the only thing is they can't see each other. So whichever group is in one room, they only see the members in that room. They don't see the members in the other room.
Well, maybe the isolation, of having your own room for your small group, that might be some good points.
Absolutely. It increases the student talking time, because if depending on how many students you have in the whole group, everybody might not have a chance to speak. Whereas if you send them into their separate rooms or their separate smaller rooms, especially if you have 2 or 3 students, it increases the time that they get to talk, doing a task or just talk to one another.
Okay, that sounds positive.
Absolutely.
You assign, you give them something to do before they go to the breakout room. What kinds of things do you assign? Do you ask them to do?
It depends on the task. Sometimes it's a very straightforward speaking task. Sometimes it could be, an A and a B kind of thing, where A has some information, B has other information, they put it together. It could be a writing task. It could be a game. It could be whatever your creativity lets you do.
I like that. Well, and you send them in with a document or a link, or how do you do that?
Okay, so this is for me. What I normally do is I upload the document in the chat box, so the students get to download it before. Then I normally tell them how much time they have for a task, which means it's easy for them to kind of know, okay, after 10 minutes, 15 minutes, we're going to come back to the main room. And it keeps them more focused on the task. And in the breakout room, you can also set it up that they get a little warning before, 15 seconds before the breakout room closes or whatever. So then they know. And you could set things up in such a way that they can come back to the main room if they want to, or you say, no, they have to stay there till the breakout room closes. And so everybody comes back at the same time. So all these things you can set up in your settings, and you can change it every time you set up a breakout room. So it's not a hard and fast rule.
Chiseled in stone.
Exactly.
Okay, so these settings, when when we begin our Zoom meeting, uh, these settings have to be. You have to think about that before. Is that correct? It's actually in your account. Is that correct?
Yes, it's in my account or the host's account. And as I said, I normally have a default setting about how I want things to work. And like I said, I normally let them stay in the room till the breakout room closes. And I tell them, when you finish your task, just talk to your partner about anything
Okay.
that you want to talk to. And then, and if you need help, there is a possibility that they raise their hand, and I can see that, and I can go into that room and help them out with whatever they need.
Okay. All right. But that's um, these are part of your preferences that you've learned from experience.
Yes, and this is what works for me. And for my group, they know this is how things work. So it gives
Okay.
them a feeling of stability as well. And I think that is really important, because if you're going to change something, they should know, and then they can adapt to it. And if somebody
Uh,
else says, you can move between rooms, or you come back to the main room, or whatever it is that you feel works for you, go ahead and do that.
okay. Uh, did you have to train them a little bit? Uh,
Initially, yes. The first couple of times, yes. And we had shorter sessions where I told them, you're only going to be away for 2 minutes or 3 minutes or whatever it is, and then you'll come back. So they got used to it, and they knew
okay.
that this is not scary at all. They enjoy it. They actually enjoy going out by themselves and doing things.
Bye.
No teacher to keep an eye on them, so that's good.
Yeah, even adults behave this way.
Especially adults.
They're big kids. Okay. So when you said that you tell them when you finish the task, feel free to talk amongst yourselves, to chit chat. Uh, is Do you delegate a leader, someone to who uh, shares his screen and the others uh, view his screen, or they just how does that work?
Well, not all the time. Initially, when I see that some students are already familiar with Zoom because they were used to it at work or whatever, initially I might do that. But then what happens is, very, very quickly, they all know how to do it, because the first session, doesn't matter which group it is, I always have a run through, show them all the tools, and tell them this is what we are going to do, and practice with them. And that first 1 hour really pays off, because later you can just tell them, do this, screen share, download, upload, and they know what to do. And so they're not stuck at that point saying, oh my God, what do I do? And even if they are, the other people can help them out. And so there's a
Uh,
lot of collaboration and scaffolding going on there.
which is good English communication.
Yes.
So you'd suggest to new teachers to take that time to go through it with the students
Yes, that
and make
that
sure.
first session is going to pay off in the long run, because it just makes them familiar with what you expect. And so when I say, is if everybody is okay, give me a thumbs up. Then my students know it's not the thumbs up icon in the reactions, but it's where the participants are, and there's a thumbs up. And so then they know that, and then I have a green thumbs up. So everybody's like, it's a tick, and then they know that, and then I can immediately see what it is. So it's
Okay.
what you work with your students with. So that's
So
your
we're
style.
talking about the participants bar on the right hand side. You
Exactly.
can see everyone in, and we'll see in this bar when the students go to the group and when they come back to the main room, etc. Okay, and at the bottom of that bar are those little icons you were speaking about.
Exactly.
Okay, all
And so,
right.
so my
That's
students, so thumbs up is actually a green tick. They know that.
there's a cup. Is there a cup of tea? Did I see that on that bar in the bottom? I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, there's a coffee or a cup of tea back in. Okay,
Coffee
it's a
break.
mug. Yeah, coffee break, and off you go, and things like that. Yeah.
Um, so uh, uh, they can ask for help at any time, and you make sure that they know how to do that. Okay.
Yes.
So you mentioned you'll tell them how long they'll be in the breakout rooms. For you, that time just varies on the task. Is there a
Absolutely.
maximum? Is there a maximum amount of time, in your opinion?
This is a hard question because it depends on what they have to do. I've had pre-university students and university students, and they have had to have they've had to have critical thinking tasks and collaboration creativity tasks. So there have been times when they've had about 30 minutes for their task, and I've had really quick rounds, kind of getting to know you rounds, and I call them this is like your speed dating kind of thing, where they've only had
Oh,
3
great
minutes
idea.
with their partner. Yeah, and
I
so
think
every 3 minutes they're off with somebody else, and so it depends on the task, it depends on what they have to do. But I have to say one thing: it takes, this is my experience, it takes longer for students in the digital classroom to get things done compared to the face-to-face classroom. So
okay.
I would add that few minutes extra, so that they don't feel under time pressure all the time.
Okay, well, I know we have to keep a class, going, but I have seen students where it was just too much. They were overwhelmed by the speed and, all the expectations about speed.
And
Okay, that's a good.
which is why it's
Uh,
good to give them a little bit of extra time, and if they finish early they can just chit chat, as you said. So that's fine as long
okay,
as they do it
okay,
in English.
we have to do that. So when they complete their task, I suppose they could bring that back into the main classroom, and then you could have a group discussion.
Absolutely, absolutely. Sometimes it's good to have a group discussion. Sometimes it even makes sense to put them in other groups with people from other groups so they can talk to each other,
About
instead
we
of.
did this.
Exactly, exactly. And again, the big group, if you're going to have, I don't know, 10 students or 15 students, I don't, depending on how many students, the time that they get to talk is minimal. So
Yeah.
if they're in a smaller group with 3, 4 students, 2 students, it just goes up exponentially.
So that to me that sounds like a great idea. Is send them off to another group, and these two people or three people can discuss what they had done previously and compare notes, and
Yes,
keep that speaking student talking time, keep that maximized.
yes, absolutely.
Do they ever feel left out? They don't have enough of you?
Well, that's the thing. You need to have a balance. It's not that they're in the breakout rooms all the time. And what I also do is, initially I tell the group this as well. I think communication is really important. Initially, I go to each group, very briefly, just to check that things are okay, and then I might tell the group, "Hey, today I'm going to concentrate on this group or that group. So I'm going to spend longer with one group to get a better impression. And so if I don't come to your group, I'm not away, drinking my coffee and going for a walk or something. I'm just with the other group, and they know that."
Oh, uh, I think a little checklist of, I need to make a little checklist of all your little bits and pieces of advice, so that new teachers to Zoom and online teaching, they can learn maybe from your mistakes and from your knowledge. Okay, and the speed dating idea. There's a lot of talk about building community, and that's in an online classroom how difficult it is, and that the concept of them having 3 minutes with different people. I suppose you give them questions, or there is some kind
Yes.
of activity.
It's something really simple, you know. As a teacher, as a lazy teacher, I try to keep things simple. So I tell them, find three things in common with
Ah,
your partner.
oh,
That's it.
oh,
You don't need a lot of preparation, or just say find two things that you hate or whatever, you know, to come up with something. And then you say you have exactly whatever 5 minutes, and then come back, and then they're all back, and then okay. The only thing is you need to keep a paper and a pen handy, so that you know you've worked with this person and you've put them in a group, and then those people can't be in the group the next time around. And Zoom does that for you in this case. So you recreate and you have a new group coming up.
oh,
and
okay.
and and depending on the students, you tell them, hey, have you worked with XYZ before? If you work with that person, just let me know so that I'll put you in a different group, and they can tell you. So you
They
just read
let you.
out the groups. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so they let you know in the chat box, or with how do they let you know?
They leave their mics on. So
Okay.
before I send them into the breakout rooms, I tell them uh, A is working with D and C is working with X. And then C
Yes.
says, oh, hey, hang on, I've already worked with X twice before. And then I say, okay, then you're not working with X, you're going to be working with somebody else.
Okay.
And then I just change it.
Okay. Uh, and this idea of all the students having their mics on simultaneously, that's not a problem.
I haven't had a problem with Zoom.
Okay.
What has been a problem is individual students having connectivity issues. And when I see that something like that is happening, then I tell that individual student, okay, if there's pair work going on, I say, okay, whatever, Peter, you have a problem with your connectivity today. So I will not put Peter with just one other person. I will put Peter in with two people, so that in case Peter fades out and gets disconnected or something like that, the other person in Peter's group is not just sitting there and
Yeah,
twiddling
left
his thumbs
stranded.
and wait.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Great. Another good idea. I'm totally
this is
impressed.
all, you know, the more you do stuff like that, the more something like this comes
Ah,
up. And then you're like, the first two times you're also stuck and you're like, the other person's waiting and saying, oh, Peter's not there. And you're like, okay, okay. But now I know, so it's okay.
okay. Well, I think your advice about uh, asking, communicating, somebody's got a problem here, or I've got a problem, or, if it's always the same thing, is developing this sense of security in a classroom where we can admit if something's wrong, if the teacher's,
I,
I like
I
that.
mean, we're not superhumans, and most of us, we are English teachers. We are not IT specialists or whatever. So I think students, as long as you don't make the same mistake every
Yeah.
single time, I think students are very understanding of things, because it happens to them too. You know, when they want to say something, they forget to switch on their mic, and everybody is going, "Ah, we can't hear you," and then they're like, "Oh yeah, 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 mic." And so it's part of the learning process.
Okay. Um, how much at the moment are all your classes online?
No, I have some face-to-face classes and I have some online classes, and so for me, it's a nice mix of both.
Okay. So people talk about hybrid classes where the students are in class one day per week and then online another day. Do you have any hybrid classes?
No, the classes that I have online right now, they're all online.
Okay.
From next week, one of the courses that I'm teaching online is going face to face, but they're going to be completely face to face. So it's
Okay.
not partly. It's
Okay. I've heard that that's can be complicated for the teacher, duplicating the same lesson, things like this. Okay. Did we forget anything? I'm trying. Um,
um,
Now these breakout rooms, it's free. I think the free version of Zoom is
yes, yes.
offered.
Yes. Well, you have to remember the free version of Zoom has 40 minutes, and the 40 minutes go by really quickly. The groups that I teach right now, there are 2 intensive courses that I'm teaching, and they're there longer. I'm teaching 6 hours at a stretch.
How do you do that? That must be exhausting.
No, that is the lovely part of the breakout room, because as a teacher it gives you a couple of minutes break, and I think for the students as well, it's a nice thing. You start something, you work on it as a class together, so you know what to expect. You go off and you practice on your own with a partner, so you're not completely alone. You come back, you get feedback on what you did, from the teacher, from the others in the group, and then it's time for the next step. So it kind of flows into the whole thing. So the 6 hours is not you sitting there and waiting for the teacher to just talk at you. It's actually you doing things, writing, speaking, listening, in fact sharing short videos that you can do, or research or whatever. You're actually actively participating, and that is why I love breakout rooms.
Okay, I've had intensives before, face to face, and I've had to make sure that I program some alone time for the students so they can be creative, they can process new vocabulary or new grammar. Sometimes, I just kept them moving too fast, and it's wonderful to write, to sit and think and write a short text, or uh, so all of these things we learn face to face, we can use them online in breakout rooms.
Absolutely, and especially the social part of it. I think the breakout rooms really contribute to that, because in class, you're sitting right next to someone, and something's going on, and you have a short conversation, and then in in a in a digital format where all of you are in one room, all of us are in one room, it's very hard to have. You can use the chat box, yes, but as we all know, chat doesn't have the tone, chat doesn't have the body gestures, chat doesn't have the speed, or the stress, or whatever it is. And so I think when people can see each other and talk to each other on a one-to-one basis, it brings them closer together, rather than if they're just going to be looking at the teacher and the teacher's going to be speaking.
Sitting in rows, and in my face-to-face classes, I always tried to get a circle, never this, lined up like that, more like a meeting. Okay, well, Uma, I think can you think of anything we missed, or?
Only one important thing: as a teacher, when you have the breakout room, that's time for you to drink a coffee, or at least half your coffee. So please don't forget that, because you as a teacher need to take care of yourself too when you have
There's a lot of talk about self-care on the internet for teachers today. I think everyone is uh, feeling sympathy for the really difficult job, incorporating uh, ed tech and into the classroom, and trying to master new things so quickly.
Exactly. So it's not just the tools that you have and every single tool that you can use. I think the pedagogy behind it, or why are you using this tool, is really important. And I think for any teacher, it's not the tool, it's how you use it, which is important.
Wow, I totally agree with that. Not to just use tech for tech's sake. Have a reason. Well, thank you, Uma, very, very much.
Thank you so much.